So the long-term snow outlook continues to look at this, really impressive. This is the European weeklies. Don't concentrate on the exact amount. These are, again, ensemble guidance, which is really spread out. But I'm looking here. I'm also looking into the west. And look, places we've not seen the snow as much, maybe the Wasatch down into the Sierra, I think your chances are going up. And we're going to get pounded, not just in the coming days, but maybe even more as we head into the next couple of weeks and months ahead. I'm talking about into January too. Here's where it's going to snow now. New numbers coming in and some new advisories to talk about. Winter weather advisories now extending all the way into Chicago. We're going to see snow here. It's going to be 2 to 5 inches, I think, in and around Chicago. That snow is also going to extend up to Madison and Milwaukee. And then you get back to the west, it's going to be a little heavier. Snow, winter weather advisories for the snow all the way south to Des Moines into central Illinois, not quite to Springfield. But winter storm warnings now for Waterloo, all the way back, not quite to Sioux Falls, where we have winter weather advisories, not including Minneapolis. The snow's going to be south of you and heaviest right along that Iowa border. This is with Clipper number 1. I think there are 3 to 4 Clippers this week, and I think there are multiple chances for snow. This is an incredibly cold weather pattern. When you get this type of setup with these Clipper systems, it's going to be really cold, way below average in many areas, close to 20 degrees. That may not last. I'll talk about that in just a second. Winter storm warnings going still here into the Wasatch, also into the Colorado Rockies, and across the Pacific Northwest. I don't want to skim over this. I want to make sure we talk about these flood watches that are up here. Some really heavy rain also falling up into British Columbia over the next couple of days. Up to 4 inches of rain, maybe locally higher amounts, and heavy snow. You got to get pretty high up into the Cascades, but there is some snow in the forecast as this system slams into the Pacific Northwest as we get just a tremendous amount of moisture moving through. Here comes your Clipper system. We're going to dive into it a little bit closer, but it's going to bring some snow further to the east as we head into Sunday across southern Ontario. So Toronto, get ready. A little bit of snow on the way for you. I don't know how much of it gets up to Montreal. A lot of it looking like it's going to be right here across northern parts of New York, up into the northern parts of New England, Vermont, New Hampshire. And then we're going to see our next Clipper start to take shape already. You can kind of see it, bringing some lighter snow here across the prairie. So Edmonton down to Calgary, maybe even into eastern Montana, South Dakota up here. We may get a little bit of light snow out of this, but this is a cold Arctic air mass driving toward the Great Lakes with some snow, again, pushing into the northeast. It's going to be wet across Florida through the weekend. Rain chances going up across the peninsula. And then we're watching this trough right here. It doesn't look like very much, but look how it tries to dig just a little bit and create some shower activity and maybe a little bit of snow here into the southern Appalachians, and then that slides offshore. Backing things up just a little bit, light snow starts to drop in from the northwest as we head into Monday. This is the European. I'm sticking with it right now for this deterministic forecast I'm showing you, which is will it snow, will it not? And then we'll talk about some variables here. And the further out you go in time, it's like shooting an arrow down a 100-yard football field, right? The further off you are at the beginning, when you hit the target, you're going to be way off. Same thing in a temporal forecast outlook with these models. If something is off just a little bit, if one of these players are actually in a little bit of a different place, it affects everything downstream and upstream for that matter. So take that in mind. And when I show you said, oh, it changed. Well, it was off to begin with when we look at these forecasting. All right. So more snow moving again through this region into the Great Lakes. Some of this could get heavy on Tuesday into Wednesday across Michigan, and then that drives east, and it's just going to keep snowing. And it's going to keep raining across the Northwest. Heavy snow into the Canadian Rockies. It could really pile up here over the coming days. And then our next Clipper, which to me looks to be one of the most powerful ones that we're going to see this week, drops south. Now, this is going to bring some snow into Saskatchewan and Alberta. I don't know if it's going to get up into Manitoba. It's dropping down into the states. So Iowa, more snow on the way for you. Illinois, Indiana. This one goes a little bit further south, almost similar to what we just saw. It's going to track through the southern Appalachians. It may put some snow into D.C. and Maryland with this type of setup. And then I think this is interesting here. You got a real cold chunk of the Arctic air mass that's way to the north dropping south. This would be a huge lake effect snow event. And now you're talking about putting northwest flow and cold air aloft, just squeezing snow out, heading into Saturday and Sunday across a good part of this region. Across the west, a bit of a break across the Pacific Northwest into British Columbia as our storm track starts to shift some. and high pressure settling in, keeping things really warm across the southwest. More snow possible. We're looking really long range, but I want to show you where I think the pattern starts to shift up. That would be heading into the next week. I know this is a long way out, but it's interesting to see how you're starting to see some buckles here, right? That kind of lines up with what we're also seeing high in the Arctic. Maybe this happens, and then I think we open the floodgates again for more cold. This is the GFS, just for some comparison. If you were tracking each of those individual systems, it's a little beefier with the snow here across North Carolina and Virginia. I don't know about that. GFS has let me down a lot lately. You'll always be let down if you rely on the GFS only. And then notice how these clipper systems are a lot further to the north. Okay, I'm just going to tell you the GFS, the 6C trended way north on these. Even the overnight run, they were still way to the north. So there are some inconsistencies with where these track later in the week. More to come on that. Here's where the snow is likely today into tonight. Again, across southern Minnesota, 2 to 4. Some of that will get close to 6 inches once you get near the Iowa border, and then you can see 6+, a good swath of that as this system moves to the east. And let's time some of this out. Once you get into the early morning hours of Sunday, the snow is flying in Milwaukee and Chicago. That band is going to weaken, but this region right here over to Chicago is right in that bullseye. So I think a good 2 to 4 with locally 5 to maybe even a little bit more. I wouldn't be shocked if there's a 6 inch in here somewhere. And then that tapers off north and south of this median line here, sort of down the middle. And then once you get into Michigan, lower amounts here too. And then look, more snow behind this. That's the next system being picked up. And those were touch numbers from the digital forecast database. That comes from the National Weather Service. This is also digital from that same database. That's why everything cuts off at Canada here. It's the border, so it doesn't extend that far. I'll show you the models in just a second. But some heavy snow expected here across the northern Rockies. And then we will get more snow again, I think, here in the coming days. This is the European, just for comparison to what I just showed you with those touch numbers lining up. And you can see those higher amounts, right? A few 6 inches trying to show up and squeeze out within that heavier band on some of the modeling. The forecast is a little bit lower, but again, this isn't a crushing snow. And the European trying to pick up on some of that southern snow here across West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, even into North Carolina heading into Monday. And you can kind of time that out right there. Again, this isn't a huge deal. And if you really push this out in time, this would be the European that I just showed you guys. Actually, this is the early morning run. Let me go back to the overnight run. This will go out further in time. There's that cold lake effect. And look at this thing cranking into next week. I mean, this is a lot of snow. I don't think the cold and snow is done for you guys whatsoever. Let's zoom in a little closer and we'll work our way across the country. We'll start across the northwest where we're watching these systems move in and then drop southeast. There comes the real heavy rain as we pull that strong fetch of Pacific moisture here into the northwest. Big snow, big rain. Flooding a concern, especially in the lower elevations. And then look, more snow. This could be a heavy dump heading into Tuesday and Wednesday further inland here into the interior areas. And some of that tries to spill again east of the mountains. And then our pattern flips up a little bit. We start to bring a little bit of warm air north. It'll be interesting to see how warm and how far north it comes as we head into Wednesday and Thursday. There's a look at your snow totals through Monday. Look at this. We're talking about feet of snow. I mean, some of these models cranking out 4 feet of snow. It's not unheard of in the mountains of British Columbia. There's a look at your temperatures today, that cold slipping south and east as we head into Sunday with near or below zero temperatures. Here comes the snow through the Midwest, really the upper Midwest into the Great Lakes. High pressure building in behind this with another shot of reinforcing cold. So once the snow goes by, it's going to turn windy and really cold. Further to the south, our trough is digging into Oklahoma and Texas, where, by the way, there's been a lot of fog starting out on Saturday, some freezing fog too. Temperatures are going to stay cold here. A little bit of a warm up, though, I think, as we head maybe into Monday and Tuesday as southwest flow starts to develop on the backside of this high pressure. Warmer temperatures all the way, I think, up here into South Dakota. And that's going to set the stage, I think, for wherever this next clipper slides in, right? Right along that boundary. And behind it, it'll try to tug in a little bit more cold air. There's a look at the temperatures. You can see the white, that's below zero readings in Fahrenheit. Just want to preface that. This is cold weather, near or below 10 below in some areas of Minnesota into Wisconsin. And then that starts to move toward the Great Lakes. That core of cold air does. Notice how Lake Michigan, again, enhancing that, or I would say modifying it. But here's the deal. Once you get into Monday morning, that wind is going to back off. So the influence of Lake Michigan isn't going to help much. Now you're going to radiate. You're going to radiate down at night. That radiational cooling is going to drop with that snowpack on the ground. It's going to get cold. And then we start to warm up some as we head into the week. There's that warmer weather. Look at that, pushing 60. I mean, do we get to 60 in Pierre? Maybe. Man, look at that. That's a huge difference. And then when we bring everything back down later in the week. This is a bit of a different look. This is the NAM. I want to show you this. A lot of rain across the south. This is also showing the light snow shower activity we're having today across the Great Lakes into parts of southern Canada. And then, again, a wet go here into southern Georgia and Florida. Here comes your Clipper system bringing some snow. It's going to start to pick up as we head into the evening and overnight, especially across eastern Wisconsin into Chicago. I think it's more like around, 10, 11, 12 o'clock tonight. Some of those bands could get heavy just on the northern side of this. I do want to show you something. We may start as snow, especially look right in here in this region. And you try to mix over to rain as a little bit of southerly flow comes in as that system tries to dig just a little bit. I think that's also going to enhance a heavier band of snow just on the northern side of wherever that band sets up. And that could really squeeze some snow out with a little bit of, I don't know if we want to call it frontogenesis here. Some forcing, though, for sure. And then that moves into Michigan. Notice the forcing does get a little bit weaker, but there's still going to be some snow out of this, and that will squeeze east as we head into Sunday with lighter snow, and then northwest winds come in. Some lake effect starts to pick up. And the NAM, that's the end of that frame. It's the end of its run, but it's picking up on that snow, trying to show up across the southern Appalachians. That'll be a quick mover. And then another wave of snow moving through the Great Lakes. We've talked about that on Tuesday. This system, as we head into Wednesday, looks a little more impressive and maybe a little bit warmer, too. Do we end up with a little rain on the southern side of this? I think it's possible, especially if it deepens like this. You get a little more buckling. You can kind of see this in the upper level flow, right? So temperatures out ahead of this would warm up somewhat, and then behind it, it will turn colder again. We'll see rain back over to some snow, and that sets the stage, I think, for the next clipper. I think that's why this is a little further south than what the GFS is showing. Again, this is the early morning run of the European. Last night's was a little bit further to the south. It uses a little more data, the midnight run, so I like it better. And this is a cold setup. This could be the coldest air of the year based on what I'm seeing. If we get this 510 height line here. So, yeah, that 510 height line, if that gets that far south, it's going to be cold. And you're going to have a lot of snow shower activity and flurries. Here's a look at your temperatures over the next couple of days. Again, cooling down in the northeast, getting downright cold. Highs barely getting into the teens and single digits. Lows well below zero. And then there's that warmer air trying to move north heading into Tuesday and Wednesday. But even across the south where it gets pretty warm, I think we're going to get knocked back again as we head into the weekend with that reinforcing shot of some really cold air. I want to show you this, okay? This is modeled out, and it's probably going to get modified some. This will be Sunday into Monday. So there comes that really chilly air, modifying as it moves east, but, you're talking teens and single digits with more cold into the northeast. Very cold, and let me tell you something. Here's what's coming after this. All right, this is high in the stratosphere, looking down from the North Pole. Yesterday, this was showing up, and it's showing up again today around the 15th. Sudden stratospheric warming event, I think, is on the way. I'm not going to get into that in this video, but we did yesterday. We looked at the long range. We talked about what this might mean. I think you might check that video out. It'll be linked in the description below. If you're in the live stream, it'll be there, but if you're watching this on playback, it'll be right here on the screen. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you have a great weekend, and I will see you next time.